In 2012, all of Hollywood was shaken. Images of little Kevin from the legendary Home Alone, Macaulay Culkin, looking frail, gaunt, with an unkempt beard, were captured by paparazzi and spread across the media. Immediately, rumors that he was struggling badly and had passed away due to a health-related collapse spread at lightning speed. Sensational headlines appeared everywhere. Former child star gone at 32. Kevin is no longer home. But the truth was completely different. Culkin was still alive, and behind the doors of his New York penthouse, he was quietly working on strange, unexpected projects. And then, something surprising happened. Something that completely changed his life and brought little Kevin back from the brink to the spotlight once again. What was it? Who or what pulled him out of the whirlwind of harmful habits and frightening rumors? The answer will shock you, and everything will be revealed in today's video. Few people know that beyond the screen, Macaulay Culkin grew up in a rundown apartment in New York, where his 7 siblings crowded together in such a tiny space that even the bathroom didn't have a lock. If Home Alone portrayed a boy freely roaming a huge mansion, then in real life, Macaulay had a childhood lacking privacy and even the right to be himself. At the center of that hardship was Kit Culkin, a father who once touched the Broadway stage but failed bitterly. The peak of Kit's career was a few background roles in West Side Story, 1961, and a small role in Hamlet, 1964. He never got to experience being the main character as he had always dreamed. That short-lived career ended because of a small incident he couldn't overcome. Instead of accepting his limitations, he turned his children into tools to fulfill his unfinished dreams. During auditions, all 7 Culkin kids had to line up and walk through, as if their lives didn't belong to them. Whenever someone needed child actors, they would ask about age and gender, and his father would immediately reply, "We've got 7 ready." Macaulay began acting at age 4, appearing on stage, television, and in films throughout the 80s. He had several notable roles, such as Rocket Gibraltar, See You in the Morning, and Uncle Buck. And in the irony of life, the one who wanted success the least became the brightest. When Uncle Buck earned 67 million USD, success began to arrive. While preparing for a family trip to Europe, screenwriter and producer John Hughes came up with the idea for Home Alone while listing things to pack so nothing would be forgotten. He joked, "What if I forgot my 10-year-old kid at home? What would he do?" Hughes wrote 8 pages of notes, which later developed into the script for Home Alone. Having worked with Macaulay in Uncle Buck, Hughes wrote the script specifically for him to play Kevin McAllister. The blockbuster Home Alone premiered in November 1990 and became the 3rd highest-grossing film of all time, earning nearly 500 million USD worldwide. Its massive success even created a Hollywood phrase, "to be home alone," meaning your film gets crushed at the box office by an extremely popular release. Macaulay nearly became an A-list star overnight. Home Alone exploded with nearly 500 million USD worldwide. Hollywood called Macaulay Culkin the industry's new money-making machine. But in the cramped New York apartment where money poured in like a waterfall, he was still just a puppeteered child. His father controlled everything, which scripts to accept, which roles to play, even his eating and sleeping schedule. To Kit, Macaulay wasn't a son. He was the biggest project of his life. The public remembered Macaulay Culkin as the clever Kevin who set traps to outsmart 2 burglars in Home Alone. Early fame suffocated Macaulay within his family and turned him into prey for the outside world. A 10-year-old boy couldn't walk down the street without being surrounded by crowds. Once, Macaulay wore a ski mask to hide his face, but people still recognized him and even said harshly, "Yeah, that's him, and he's not even that cute." While the world assumed wealth and fame meant happiness, no one in his family could understand his loneliness. No one except Michael Jackson. Michael's father, Joe Jackson, had once turned his children into tools to escape poverty. The beatings with electric cords, belt buckles, or wooden handles haunted Michael throughout his childhood, turning him into an unwilling performance machine. Both Macaulay and Michael grew up under fathers who resented them, yet forced them to become the moneymakers of the family. And between the two generations, a strange sense of empathy was formed. When Michael was 33, Macaulay was only a 10-year-old boy. Their friendship took place at Neverland Ranch, a vast estate filled with rides and lights where Michael often invited children to play and sometimes stay overnight. Macaulay admitted he had slept in Michael Jackson's room about 10 times, and public suspicion immediately arose. But instead of avoiding the topic, he responded with a vivid explanation. Michael's bedroom has 2 levels and 3 bathrooms. When I say sleep in there, you have to understand the setting, not what people imagine. What made the story even more unusual was Macaulay's loyalty. Throughout Michael's ups and downs, he never publicly criticized him. In 2005, when Michael was in court for accusations of misconduct, Macaulay himself testified, insisting that the allegations were baseless. To Macaulay, Michael wasn't the king of pop, but a friend who shared the same struggles. Meanwhile, Macaulay's career continued to soar. Home Alone 2 earned him $4 million USD in salary and more than $350 million USD worldwide. Despite being criticized as a repeat of the first film, over time, the sequel became the most beloved installment of the series, solidifying Macaulay Culkin as the greatest child star since Shirley Temple. At age 12, he had reached heights many actors never touch in a lifetime. While Hollywood praised Little Kevin, Macaulay in real life was exhausted. He admitted he once begged his father to let him rest and go to school. Kit Culkin's answer was, "Yeah, sure," but immediately after that, Macaulay was taken to another film set. He recalled bitterly, "I made so much money, yet he made me sleep on the couch just to remind me, if he didn't want you to have a bed, you wouldn't get to sleep on a bed." At 12, he reached a peak many dream of: global fame, record-breaking earnings, and rare influence. But at that very peak, Hollywood's merciless wheel began to turn backward. Films that followed, like The Good Son and Richie Rich, no longer thrilled audiences. Not because Macaulay acted poorly, but because Hollywood was tired of the Kevin image. In the eyes of the public, he was forever the mischievous kid in the booby-trapped house, and any other role became an unfair comparison. After Home Alone, Macaulay Culkin never again replicated that phenomenon. In a later interview, he admitted, "My parents eventually split up, and it was honestly one of the best things that ever happened. I could get out of the industry. I said, I'm done, I'm out. I hope you all made enough money because you're not getting another cent from me." And so he left Hollywood for nearly 8 years. For Macaulay, it was freedom, but for his parents, it was the spark that ignited a fierce legal war. The divorce of Kit Culkin and Patricia Brentrup turned into a battle over custody and assets. Macaulay didn't want to live with his father while his mother spent nearly all her money hiring lawyers to fight Kit. The only way to protect his wealth, painfully, was to remove both parents from his trust fund. He hired an executor to manage his assets, which allowed him to keep his millions. Kit didn't even bother to show up for the final court hearing, and the filmmaking community began to resent Kit Culkin, as almost Everyone who worked with him had terrible experiences. As a result, Macaulay disappeared from film for a decade. He tried doing what a normal teenager would, attend high school, but school for him was simply a place to have a social life. At 17, he rushed into marriage with Rachel Miner, then plunged into New York's counterculture lifestyle, dyeing his hair pink, drinking, experimenting with substances, graffiti, and modifying cars. The media did not overlook a single detail. Macaulay became one of the earliest targets of tabloid culture, placed alongside Britney Spears, Lindsay Lohan, and Paris Hilton, except he didn't fall apart publicly. He was exaggerated into a symbol of downfall. He once defended himself in 2001 at just 21 years old. "I never did anything more than the rich kids in the Upper West Side. It's not like we were hanging out on the street corner doing dangerous substances." At a stop in Oklahoma, police found 17 grams of marijuana in his car, along with a few non-prescription sedatives. That could have simply been the image of a young man in his 20s searching for an escape, something common among American youth. But with Macaulay, the media didn't see a young man. They saw Kevin McAllister going astray. The frightening part wasn't the act of using substances, but the way the public consumed the story. When Britney Spears shaved her head, when Lindsay Lohan checked into rehab, when someone got arrested, society didn't just talk, it enjoyed it. The image of a fallen child star became a form of dark entertainment, reflecting the public's desire to tear someone down. And Macaulay was turned into the main character of that script. The tragedy didn't stop there. In 2008, his sister Dakota died suddenly in an accident, a devastating blow for someone who had already lost so much. And while that pain was still fresh, his 7-year romance with Mila Kunis also ended. On one side was the loss of family, on the other was heartbreak. 2 consecutive hits that pushed Macaulay into emotional darkness. "I was a mess in my 20s. I was wrong, and it took me years to admit it." For Macaulay, it felt like being betrayed at his weakest moment. The media seized the moment and unleashed headlines. Photos of his thin frame were instantly titled, "Heroin Addict, Only 6 Months to Live." Macaulay later admitted that drugs had passed through his life during a dark phase. No eating, no sleeping, no reason to wake up. The death of Michael Jackson in 2009, his friend who shared the same struggles, deepened the shadow. What pulled him back to the US was love. In 2018, on the set of Changeland, Macaulay met Brenda Song, London Tipton from The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. They bonded because they were both former child stars, both carrying scars from the industry. Brenda became the safe harbor Macaulay never thought he would have. In 2021, they welcomed their first son, Dakota, named after Macaulay's late sister. It was his way of turning pain into memory and moving forward. Brenda was also the one who brought him back into the spotlight. The Bunny Ears podcast, voice acting roles, and especially his impressive comeback in American Horror Story Season 10. This time, the audience no longer saw Kevin. They saw Macaulay, a grown actor with his own depth. He said with emotion, "There are so many people that I love, and it feels wonderful to feel loved again." From a child forced into becoming a Christmas icon to a man who found his real family, Macaulay Culkin proves one thing. A childhood can be taken away, but adulthood, he will protect for himself. Now he is no longer the pressured child, no longer the tabloid's prey. He is simply a family man, a father trying to give his son the things he never had. And looking back, he said, "I didn't choose this life. I just completed my father's dream before I even turned 10. It is a tragedy, but also a triumph. Because in the end, Macaulay Culkin learned how to write the script for the rest of his own life.